Hello again, it's Elizabeth. I'm here for the third installment on making a box. Today I've chosen the lovely little butterfly pattern that you see here to make the inside of the box. And the first thing that we need is to have a piece long enough to go from one side to the other. And we remember that our height of our box is 2 inches from the inside up. From the outside it's 2 1/8 because the bottom is 1/8 inch thick. But from the inside it's 2 inches tall, and we're going to leave about 1/4 inch in between the top edge and the top of that paper. So about 1/4 inch in. So if we measure that, we should have, and I'm putting my finger here, I think that's where it's going to go. I'll put a little pencil mark on the back. We should have 1 3/4 for the first measure, and then 4 inches across for the second measure, and then 1 3/4 for the next measure, because this is 2 inches tall and we're leaving 1/4 inch. So if we think that way, then we would have 1 3/4 twice, which is 3 1/2, right? Yes. Because 3/4 and 3/4 is 1 1/2, and 1 1 1 is 3 1/2. And then the 4 inches, that is the width of the bottom, because remember the outside is the 4 1/4 inches. So this will be then 7 1/2 inches wide. So if I'm at 19, then that means down to 12 is 7 1/2, and that's where I made my little mark. So we were right on the money on that. So I'll go ahead and trim this to the 1/2 inch mark, and I can see the little dots on my board here, and I just line those up with my ruler and go ahead and cut that. Now for each of the ends, we're going to need 1 3/4 high, but we want to overlap the bottom about at least 1/4 inch, a little more than 1/4 inch, because we want that to, because where the fold is from here to here, we don't want that to just be bare naked cardboard there. We want to have it all lined and nice and even. So we're going to go 1 3/4 for the height, plus another 1/4, I'm going to say another 1/4 now, for the overlap to the bottom. So that would make it 2 inches. We need 2 inches for, and then how long do we need it? Well, we need it the 4 inches across here, plus we need 1/4 on this side and 1/4 on this side to overlap. So that's going to make it 4 1/2 inches. So we need it 4 1/2 inches wide and 2 inches high. Okay, so we've got 2 inches high there. And I'll just go ahead and cut that at 2 inches. Because remember, we're leaving 1/4 inch from the top, and it would be nice if my knife cut through. I should use this other knife I brought over from the other table. I know it's sharp. It's sharp stuff. Okay, so we needed 4 1/2 for each of these. So there's 1 2 3 4 1/2. And 1 2 3 4 1/2. Now, each of these are going to be exactly the same. We're going to take out 1/4 inch in each corner, in each of the bottom corners, not the top corners. The top corners are just going to get beveled ever so slightly. So 1/4 inch is one of these little tiny marks on the table. So I'm going to do that slightly diagonally there and slightly diagonally there. Do this where you can see it. That one's done. Okay, same thing on this corner. slightly diagonally there, and slightly diagonally there. Oops, come on, you. Sometimes this paper, this is Japanese, I think it's called Japanese tea chest paper or something like that. But anyway, it's Japanese paper, and it's got gold. You can see the gold in it, so I thought that would go with our gold outside. In fact, I picked this paper first. Had to look for something to go with it. You can do this with scrapbooking paper. You can use book cloth. You can use all kinds of paper, but what you have to be aware of is how thick your paper is, because if your paper's very thick, it's going to make a difference when you're making the box. Okay, so we want to fold up that 1/4 inch on the bottom, and I think I've got a little more than a 1/4 inch, so let's back off that a little bit, because that'll make it easier if we pre-fold what we're going to do there. Okay, and I've got a little bit extra here, so I'm going to trim that with my scissors. Okay, so you see those, see the corners, might be easier on this side. See the corners, how I've made those diagonals. And actually we can go ahead and fold these little things too, although it may go ahead and I didn't talk to you about I want the grain of this paper to run with that grain too, but this is like Japanese handmade paper or whatever, and so it doesn't really have a grain. There's really no grain to this. It bends just as easily either way. Okay, so I'm going to fold this one the same, because we're going to go ahead and glue these as fast as we can. And I'm going to trim off that top corner of the, just a little tiny bit of it, make it a little tiny diagonal so that it will, when it fits in there, it will look really pretty. Okay, let's get rid of all these little baby things so they don't get in our way later. Throw those in there, get our glue box, glue page back on here. And we don't need to glue that. We're going to glue, we've got all over my glue brush. Come on, stay there. Okay, so now we just need to glue this whole thing. We'll make sure the whole thing gets glue on it all the way to the top. We might need just a little bit more. It sucks it up really much. And all the way to the sides. And if it moves, then you want to move it to another place to glue it again, because if it moves, then you're going to be having glue on the inside of this beautiful box, and you do not want that. Okay, so we take this piece, move our glue book out of the way so I can get this a little bit closer, wipe off our fingers because they're gluey, and we're going to put that in the box, and I'm going to have to do that this way to make it beautiful, but what I'm doing is lining up with the edge. I'm scooting it because our Yes Paste lets us scoot it a little bit. I'm making sure that it is even with that edge and down to the bottom so that we have our 1/4 inch here, our 1/4 inch still showing, can you see that, of the box, 1/4 inch of gold showing, and I'm making sure that that's down into that corner, down into the bottom corner, at bottom edge, and down into this corner. And it should be a 1/4 inch along the bottom, a 1/4 inch along this side, and a 1/4 inch along that side. Can you see that? Okay. Now sometimes I use a piece of cardboard like this to get down into that corner, because if you use your bone folder is not square at the end of it. So it's easier if you use your piece of cardboard to make that squared off down in that corner there. You see what I'm saying? Down into that corner there, the squared off piece of cardboard. Okay? Any questions? I know you can't ask questions. Well, you could ask questions, but you'll have to put them in the comment, and I'll have to get back to you because, unfortunately, we're not doing this live. Or maybe fortunately, because sometimes it's difficult to do live ones. I needed to move that up just a smidge. Down just a smidge. Make it beautiful. Now this paper you do not want to wet very much because it will change the feel of the paper. And I'm just making sure, as much as I can, that this is even 1/4 inch from the top to the edge of the paper and the top to the edge of paper on this side. It looks pretty even to me. Got some glue on the outside of the box. Okay, ready for our next one. So we'll put up this, get all the stuff out of the way. Another piece of paper. Glue all over this. Clean off some of the glue off the edge. Handle got in there again, so I'm just going to wipe some onto this and then okay, and it moved, so we're moving this piece of paper, but we've got glue all over it, so we're cool. Move this out of the way. You do have to have some space to make a box. Okay, I'm going to tilt it up again, and I'm going to do 1/4 inch from the edge. But it's hard to show you that at the same time. Maybe if no, maybe not. All right, and this one's going to be obstinate, of course. But see, I get it in there, and then I just move it around because the Yes Paste will let you move it around. That's one reason I use it. Okay, and you want that even. Can you see that even 1/4 inch there? Okay, and I know the bottom doesn't look beautiful yet. I've got to straighten that out. And sometimes I have to use I have a little spatula like this, and it helps to move this paper. Like, see, it can hold on to that paper and get that down into that corner. I think I need to move down to this side a little further. Yes, I do. And sometimes you have to take that loose from that and just scoot it on down to that corner. Are you scooting? Yes. Scoot a little bit more. Don't scoot too much. You gotta have it just right, you know. You don't want it, don't have to be just right, like the Three Bears. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. There we go. Okay. I know, I'm silly. Anyway, then we push that down into the corner. Now we can use this spatula. It's kind of pointy, but you gotta be careful. You don't want to make that cut in that, or a tear in that, so you have to be careful. And that's one reason I use the square of the corner of this, because then it's maybe more gentle than a metal thing. Okay, looks good along that edge. That looks like it's a 1/4 inch all the way across. I got a little extra glue I'm getting rid of. And that looks pretty good. Make sure it's in that edge. I'm just running my thumbnail along there and in that corner there, because if you don't do that, then when you get ready to do your next piece of paper across there, it's not going to work. Okay, so now we have 2 sides done. And you notice those were the 2 that the arrows were pointing at. So you always do the one that the arrows point at first, because those are the sides that, well, that way, the grainier paper, if you're doing a grainy paper, you're going to have the grain go with this. So that way, the majority of it will go the right direction. But anyway, it's easier if you, let me just say this, it's easier if you do that, so do it. Okay, so now we're going to dry fit this in here. And you notice that there is a little wiggle room, top to bottom, side to side. And the reason that you have that is because you're going to need that to make this fit perfectly in there. And then we're going to make a little crease where that should go, where it should be creased, see? So that your corners line up, make beautiful corners, and you have them nice and even there. Make that little crease, and you have to hold that while you're making the other crease. And then you test and see if that one actually lines up too. And it looks like it does, so we're good to go. Now, the thing that you choose here is, do we want it to go that direction, or do we want to turn it around? And I don't think this is going to make any difference. Sometimes you can get fussy and you can try to make this, see this little butterfly here almost lines up with that little butterfly there. And if I was really, really, making it really fussy, cut fussy things, in fact, it does kind of line up. See how that works? The little edge of that. Now, it won't do that. It didn't do it on the other side, but we're just going to go with it. Okay, so we have to get our glue book back. And this isn't a glue book like, some people they have glue books that they put glue things into. This is a glue book that we use for our glue. Okay, don't wiggle on me now. And I'm kind of looking at it in the light to make sure that it's all gooey, because we have the whole thing gooey at once. And this can be a little tricky. Oh, don't move, because if you do, you'll get glue on you on the other side, and we don't want glue on the other side. Okay, so that looks beautiful. Okay, we're going to try to pick it up straight, put our glue thing there, get this out of the way, clean off our fingers, and we're ready to put it in there. And this is the way it goes. So what I do is flip these both inside, kind of, okay, so kind of roll it in there, and I roll this side up to where it goes. So I make it even with that other side. Make this new paper that I'm putting in even with the other side. Then I scoot the bottom of the page over until it reaches the crease that I had made in the bottom of the box in that corner there. And so I'm scooting it this way. The bottom of the paper I'm scooting this way so that it will be into that corner down there. Then I'm pushing this down, and I know it got a little glue up there, but I'm pushing it down until it goes up against that and make that even. Now, sometimes you will have extra paper in the bottom of your box. Now, how did that happen? We measured that, and it fit perfectly. Well, what happens is that the paper, as I said before, stretches along against the grain. With the grain, with the grain. So what it has done and maybe I just didn't get it down in that corner because now it's fitting better. But what it does is it actually stretches that way. So we had it stretched a little bit longer than we wanted it. And that can make us have wrinkles in the bottom of our box if these things match up perfectly. But I think that it was because we did not have, well, maybe just a little. I might have to trim that. Yep. Okay, this is a delicate operation, and I have seen that it is about a 1/16 of an inch too long. So I'm going to trim off that 1/16 of an inch, and you have to be very careful because it's wet paper, and when you have wet paper, it's very delicate, and it can tear, or it can, mainly tear. Come on, you. That little last bit. So I'm trimming off 1/16 of an inch to make it fit properly. And that's because it's stretched from the glue being on it. But once you get it glued to it, then it will stay stretched, so you'll be A-okay on that. Again, I'm pushing it down with my fingernail into that edge. Now I'm going to take this cardboard that I have, and I'm going to try to make it nice and smooth along the bottom. Sometimes you have to get your fingernail in there to smooth out any wrinkles that might happen because of the stretch. You have to get your fingernails ungooey too. Okay, again, this has to be perfect along here. And we're going to take this, make sure it goes into the corner. Into the corner it has. And into this corner, and it has. And it's going along the bottom, just kind of smushing it back and forth along the bottom to get any excess glue out, to get it to come over to this edge properly, over to this edge properly, everything. And then we go along this edge from corner to corner. Make sure it's down in that corner. Come on, you. Wasn't quite. smoothing out any wrinkles that might be there because of the stretch of the paper. And come on, yeah, perfect then. Okay, and I feel a little bit, yep, looks pretty good. There's one little wrinkle I need to use my fingernail on. There's perfect now. And now we have all of our corners should meet up. Our paper should meet up. That one's not absolutely perfect. You can see it's off by a hair. That one's pretty good. And that one's good. So we're happy with that. Now we're going to cover our outside of our lid. And the outside of the lid, can I put that paper away? No, I put it over there. I did put it over there, but I didn't put it away. You can't cover the inside of the lid until you cover the outside of the lid and you're sure that this is dry so that you can dry fit that in there. Because you see we made this 4 inches, this one 4 inches wide and 4 inches high. But since we've put paper in there, it doesn't fit. It won't go down in there. So we're going to have to trim off a little bit of this in order to make it fit into that box. Okay, how much time have we got? Oh, good, we're doing fine. I'm going to find my gold paper again, and we will, I hope I'll find my gold paper again, and we'll go ahead and do the outside of the box. What did I do with that? Surely I didn't put it away already. Oh, that's annoying. I guess I'll have to wait till next time. Oh, there it is. Never mind. Here it is. Okay, lid of the box. We're going to do the lid, and then we'll be ready to trim the lid insert. Get some of this off my table. Here's the lid. I put an eye to make it inside. So that's all we're going to do there. I'm just going to make a quick pencil mark around it so I know where to put the lid. When I put it down, we'll put glue on our lid. Way too much. All the way to the corners. Looks gluey all over. So which way did we say this one went? Okay, more this way. Okay, put that down. Then we're going to trim around it, and you could use your X-Acto knife or you can just use your scissors, either way. You just want about the same amount on the outside on each side. There we go. Right over there where I won't lose it again. And it's still scooting on me because it's still so wet. So let's look at the top and see if we have to. Oh, that looks good. Wipe off my fingers again. Okay, for this, we want to make our diagonals on the corners 45 degrees, and we want to be slightly more than 1/8 of an inch away from the board. And the reason for that is when you fold up one of these sides, you want that to cover that edge of that board, that corner. And if you made this diagonal right up against the edge of that, it would not. Okay, so we need our glue book again. And we're going to, it doesn't really matter which side you start on. But you just start on opposite sides. I usually do opposite sides. So glue along here. And that glue's over there, so we'll do it here. And glue along there. And we're going to take both of these and fold them up and over the edge of the board. fingers ungluey. And get this ungluey too. Have a whole floor full of paper. Okay, so then you push this at the same time from one side and from the other, because you want that to, if you push it just from one side and you have it still wet like we did, then it can scoot on you, and you don't want it to scoot because then you'll be too close to one edge or the other edge. Okay, so what I've done is to pinch in that corner. So pinch in this corner, and you can see how it folds in and folds around the edge of that board. Pinch in that corner. Okay, so pinch in this corner. Basically folded it down and pinched it in so that it's against the board as much as possible, and then it's against that paper. So then we're going to put a little more glue on this. Get our fingers all ungluey again. Put it on this side and make sure you get those little corners, but be careful. You don't want to just like slop glue everywhere. Okay, turn it around, do this side. Right in that corner. And the same thing. Push those up at the same time. And you may have to push these down. Make sure these are down at the corner before you push that up. Okay. Pushed in nicely, flat, beautiful. Okay, so now what I'm doing here is I take my corners, and I did it on the box too, but I didn't show it. I take all the corners and see how pointy that is? I mean, that's really like to a point. I just push it against my thumbnail and make that smoothed out a little bit so it doesn't pokey anybody. And it can be kind of pokey stuff. Okay, and fold that one over. We didn't do that yet. Make sure it's down all the way. And you can take your, again, you take your bone folder, but you want to have a piece of paper between that and your bone folder just in case. Or you can just take your finger and go along that edge to make sure that edge is down. See how this one looks a little curled instead of flat? Just go along with your fingernail. Just go along with your finger. Pull that straight so that it's not like that. Okay, on the next video, we will finish up by making our insert a little bit smaller by putting the legs and the top opener thing on. Okay, and we'll cover our insert too. Looks pretty good. No glue on the outside. Yep, a little fingerprint there. That looks good. It's going to look good on the box. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that going to be beautiful? Ooh, I just love it. Okay, see you next time. Remember to subscribe, you know, all the rest of that stuff, but you probably already have since you watched the other 2 videos. This is number 3. I can't do anything fast, I guess. Actually, the answer is it always takes longer than I think. I'm just cleaning off some little glue fingerprints I see on there. I hate glue fingerprints. Nope, there's one there too. We're going to have a beautiful one. It's going to be beautiful. Oh, enough said. Thank you. See you next time. And we'll finish up. I promise.